What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another review. Today, we're going to be talking about a movie called Bone Lake. So, this is a movie I actually heard about from Fantastic Fest last year. It premiered there, and it just took literally about a year or two to finally get distribution and finally come out. It will be out this Friday. I got to see the movie just a little bit early, so I wanted to give my spoiler free thoughts, talking about how it was one of the most hyped up movies of the festival that year. And I didn't know anything about it other than the concept. I just knew that how people described it, and it actually seemed right up my alley in a way. And this is also a movie that, yeah, I think maybe a month or so ago, maybe a little bit farther than that, maybe a few months ago, a trailer for it finally did come out, and I never watched the trailer for it. I was like, no, I'm already sold on the movie. I don't need to see it. And it was something that was never marketed, and so I was like, it's fine. So I didn't have to go out of my way to avoid it, like I have with other trailers. Looking at you, Black Phone. But anyway, so essentially, this movie is about a couple who are going cross country, and they stop at this Airbnb for the weekend. And pretty much within the first few hours of the first day that they're there, this other couple arrives saying that they've been double booked. And that's pretty much it, because I don't want to say anything about where the story goes or some of the crazy stuff that ensues. The best way someone I think I heard describe this movie is it's like Speaks No Evil meets Barbarian. And I can totally see that. Barbarian more in the vein of the Airbnb being double booked, and Speak No Evil in the vein of this meeting this couple on vacation. If you've never seen Speak No Evil, I highly recommend it. And obviously, if you've never seen Barbarian, please go see it. But Speak No Evil, the original and the American one are both good, but they both have two completely different endings. But with this movie, in that same vein of that, it has where one of the couples is very kind of off, and you kind of get this vibe that you're kind of like, I don't really know about this couple. So that right there, already being double booked with this in this Airbnb with strangers, kind of already puts you in this mindset of unease and tension, which is really good, because I think both those movies that it's been compared to, both are very good tension builders. And there was two other movies that came to mind while watching this, and one of them was The Rental. A lot of people did not like that movie at all. I really enjoyed it. I might be on an island with that. I never hear anybody talk about it, but if you've never seen The Rental, I highly recommend checking it out just to see what, where you fall on it. And there's another movie with Aaron Paul that came out in like 2018. I don't know if anybody's ever even heard of it, but it was called Welcome Home. And it's kind of got the same similar vibe as this movie does. With all that being said, I think this movie, as I said in my little intro, I think this movie does a great job at really building tension. There's certain parts in this movie, like especially how I felt with Speak No Evil, with if you have really bad anxiety, stuff like this can really get under your skin and really kind of just make you feel that tension. While I did have that in this movie, maybe not as much as I did in Speak No Evil, it's still there because you're riding on this tension of what's going to happen with these characters, who's going to give in to something, are they going to give in to something? So it's like playing this cat and mouse game the whole time, and they do a really good job of how they go along with that and how you buy into that. So it does a very good job of pulling you into the story, wanting you to know, keeping you engaged, wanting you to know what's really going to happen. But at the same time, this movie is also a lot of fun. Like, I think there's also a lot of funny, humorous moments throughout the movie. The way certain lines are delivered or certain situations that these characters are in. There is a scene pretty much right at the end of the movie, without spoiling anything, that involves a ring, is all I'll say. That my showing of this was completely dying laughing all the way up until the credits. Right, and then even when the credits appeared on the screen, everybody was still dying laughing. So it's a great movie that is able to balance the tension that you want to go on for a movie like this, especially a ride for a movie like this, and it does a great job of being funny as well. And I feel like those two things are very hard to balance, but this movie does a great job of walking that fine line between both. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was the characters. There's really only four characters in this entire movie, is really the two couples, and the two leads that are essentially our main couple, they do just enough of a good job to where you really care for these characters and you really root for them. You don't know a lot about them, but you still are invested in them enough to where you want them to get out of this situation. You want them to, you know, be victorious in the end. You want to see them, live a happy life. And like I said, you don't know a ton about them, but it gives you just enough to latch onto them to make you care. As for the other couple, they do a really good job of keeping them mysterious all the way up until the end of the movie. And they do a great job with that because there's something so off about them, and both of them play it so well as to, you want to think that they're these good people, but at the same time, like the whole time you're watching the movie, you're like, I don't know, something feels really off here, and then things start to happen as the movie progresses that make you feel like, okay, these are definitely some people I don't need to be around, and I'm getting a ton of red flags, and for me, I would be like, we need to get the hell up out of here. This movie is feels like it's going for one of those classic movies that we used to have in the 90s, where it's not really a horror movie. There's some like horrific, scary elements that happen in the movie here and there, but overall it's definitely more of a thriller. And this is, like I just said, this is more in the vein of those 90s erotic thrillers that we used to get, like Basic Instinct or Fatal Attraction. Now, it doesn't push the line nearly as much as something like Basic Instinct, but it tries to go for that classic erotic feel, that those movies used to have back in the 90s. I also think this movie is really, really cool of the way that it is shot in certain scenes. There's certain ways that they do these overhead shots that lead into shots of the house that follow a character, or when somebody's just unlocking a door, that when someone was like hitting a lock of the door, every time they swing it, the camera will move the way that they're hitting it. I thought that was a really cool thing to have, and it adds this like real pleasing thing to the eye where it's just fun to look at while you're watching it. And I think it helps. It's one of those things too that kind of puts you in the movie to where, as an audience member, it kind of also helps build the tension because you don't know what's behind that door. Like, you truly don't know what is in store for these characters. And I think the way that the camera is moved in those certain ways, like I said, I think as an audience member, it just helps build the tension. For mixed things for this movie, I put them more in mixed things because I feel like they're more nitpicky than actual full blown negatives. But one of my nitpicks or mixed things that you want to, if you want to call it that, is I do not feel like this is an original story in any shape or form. This is a movie I feel like we've seen plenty of times, and like I said, with the movies that I mentioned before, that's what they reminded me of. But it was a neat way of doing this story, if it makes sense, because the stuff that is revealed near the end of the movie, it kind of like had its own flavor to it. So that was a really cool add-on. That was something new that we didn't see in other versions, if you want to call it, of a movie like this. And you're so along for the ride, and you're so entertained and invested in what else is going on throughout this movie, that you're kind of just hooked into it. So you're like, yeah, I might have seen this movie before, but I'm cool with it. Or I might have seen this story before, but I'm cool with it because I want to see where this goes. I'm invested at this point. This might be one of those things that was just a me thing, but I was somebody that I kind of called what the reveal or the twist, whatever you want to call it, was going to be about 30, 40 minutes into the movie. Some people might have actually called it earlier than that. But again, it's one of those things where you're like, even if I'm wrong or even if I'm right, I still want to see how it's going to play out, how this story is going to unfold, and where the story's going to take me. So it did a very good job of that. Even though, like I said, it's something that we've seen this type of story before, but you're just along for the ride. And I think there are certain points I feel like in this movie that you will have to suspend your disbelief of. First of all, you're double booked at this Airbnb, and you're just gonna roll with these strangers that you're like, you guys seem pretty cool enough, so, and chill and down to earth. So we'll see what happens. And of course, like, in the movie, everything starts off all fine and dandy, and then things slowly start to descend. And it's kind of the same nitpick, or in some cases, depending on who watches it, some people might consider this a negative. It's the same case in Speak No Evil, where there was so many times where this other couple would say things so out of left field or something that would make you so uncomfortable that eventually I'd be like, "Hey, we need to get out of here." Like, this is something's just not right here. And it slowly, and my God, the gaslighting in this movie. You're like, dude, you're like, at some point somebody has got to be like, "You know what? We out." It becomes one of those movies that, you have a happy couple at the start of the movie, and as it goes on, this other couple starts to stir up, a lot of stuff under the surface, and starts to find out things about this other couple, and really tries to just ruffle the feathers and get in between the relationship. And eventually, and so they start to turn on each other and start to question themselves and their partner. And you're like, eventually I would be like, how why do you know this stuff? Like, why are you talking to me about this? I don't know you. And eventually it's another leads into another thing about people making stupid choices. It happens a lot in these movies. I totally get it. And sometimes a lot of people use it as a crutch, to go along with the narrative. But in this movie, there was so many times where I wanted to scream at the screen and be like, "Stop telling these people things." I know you guys don't know that they're using it against you, but for God's sake, stop telling these people information about yourselves. But at the same time, I think one of those moments like that where you get so invested in those characters and you want to, you know, strangle these characters at times because, you want to see them succeed. I think that kind of adds to the fun of the movie and overall to the fun of your experience. My one biggest negative I feel about this movie is that there are certain scenes, especially near the end, where it's pretty much all dark out. That it's mainly when they're on a boat. Is all I'll say is that the way that it's shot and the way that the camera is moved, like the way it does like quick cuts and moves around certain things, it's kind of hard to tell what is going on. And yeah, that's a little rough. I'd like to be able to see what is happening, and that's really the only negative I have to say about it, other than my nitpicks. But like I said, my nitpicks a lot of people could end up having fun with. Same with my negative. My negatives, it might not be even a thing at all. So it might just be me. But overall, I think this is a fun movie. I think it's a really fun, entertaining movie. I think it's a really good date night movie. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, I highly recommend checking it out. It's definitely more of a lower budget type movie, so I don't know how long it'll be in theaters, but it's got enough appeal to it to where it's got that suave sexiness to it, but it also has that really tense thriller, but it also does a really great job of being funny. And honestly, most of the jokes and most of the humor that they're going for lands a lot. Like I said, the theater I was in, they were laughing pretty much at all the points that were supposed to be funny, and they're really getting into it. And it has that all that mixed into it, and it's not overly gory or anything. So if you want to go see it, or your partner wants to go see it, and one of you's not into gore, there's really only like 2 scenes of gore throughout the whole movie. And it's not like bad or anything. So fun and, suspenseful and tension, but you don't have to worry about a lot of like gore and guts and stuff like that if that's not your thing. If you get the chance this weekend and you guys are looking for something fun to do, I do recommend checking out Bone Lake. I think, for the most part, I think you'll have a really good time with it and find some real enjoyment out of it. And it's just a fun time at the movies. Thank you, everybody. That's my review for Bone Lake. Please let me know if you've seen the movie yet. I'm going to try to drop this around maybe, I think, Thursday evening. I'm going to try to drop it when the movie, like the premiere, actually comes out. And when you guys see it, please comment below and let me know what you thought about it and all the things that you liked or disliked about it. If this is the video you're finding me on, please come over and check out all my other 2025 reviews. I've got a slew now, so I'll put up some cards up here for you guys to check that out. And as always, please come on over and like, comment, and subscribe and all that good stuff. That way I can see all of you in the next one. Thank you so much.